The Boston Bruins now have a commanding 3-1 lead in their opening round playoff series with the Florida Panthers. Ian McLaren of Locked On Bruins will discuss how the Bees overcame some injuries and took command of the series. All that and more coming up on this episode of the Locked On NHL Podcast.
You're Locked On NHL, your daily podcast on the National Hockey League. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And happy Monday, everybody, and welcome back to the Locked On NHL Podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Want to thank everyone for making Locked On NHL your first listen every day, and don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcatcher and on YouTube. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code Locked On NHL for $20 off your first purchase. Well, the Boston Bruins now up 3-1 in their series with the Florida Panthers. Ian McLaren of Locked On Bruins joins us. And Ian, despite the injuries, the Bruins are finding their stride.
Yeah, I mean, the Bruins knew they were going to be without Patrice Bergeron for at least games 3 and 4. And then prior to game 3, they learned that David Krejci would not be able to suit up either. He missed game 4 as well. But still, the Boston Bruins showing tremendous depth, and full credit to Don Sweeney for adding some of those pieces that have stepped up, whether it was this season before the deadline or in years past. And the Boston Bruins were able to get the job done in Florida, taking those 2 road games, and they head back to Boston for game 5 with the chance to close it out on home ice, which is exciting for them for sure.
No question about it. And what do you think was the biggest difference in these 2 games, especially down in Florida, that allowed the Bruins to take command of the series?
There's a few things. I think the Bruins were able to make a couple adjustments after that game 2 loss to the Panthers. They inserted Matt Grzelcyk into the lineup for some puck moving ability on the back end, brought Jacob Lauko in for some depth and energy on the fourth line. And Nick Foligno, who was expected to be a scratch heading into game 3, he jumped back in because of the injury to David Krejci. And the Bruins have this next man up mentality. They knew they had to come together as a team without, the 2 guys that have been there forever pretty much. And they were able to do it. Charlie Coyle stepped up huge in game 3, played just like a first line center, which he hasn't quite done in his career. He's more comfortable second, third line maybe. And then on Sunday, it was Taylor Hall who had a monster game for the Bruins, 2 goals, 2 assists for 4 points. An amazing performance from him after missing most of the final couple months of the regular season due to injury. So it was partly Jim Montgomery making some adjustments after the loss, partly some guys stepping up, and also Linus Ullmark looked incredible in these 2 games in Florida. Looked a bit rough at home. I think he had that flu bug that had been hindering some Bruins late in the regular season and into the first couple games, but he looked so sharp in these 2 games against the Panthers, and even dropped the gloves near the end of the game, looking to get a piece of Matthew Tkachuk, which is some great passion that you love to see on his part as well.
Yeah, and I'm sure there are a lot of opposing players who wouldn't mind getting a piece of Matthew Tkachuk over the course of this season.
No doubt.
Does it bother you that this team allowed 43 shots on goal in game 4?
Yes and no. I mean, they were outshot in game 1. The thing with the Panthers is they have a high volume of shots. They're not necessarily the highest quality of shots. The Bruins have been able to keep them to the perimeter for the most part. Tkachuk has been one of those guys who has been able to get to the net. He scored that beautiful goal between his legs for the first one on the Bruins. But the Bruins are able to, keep them to the perimeter and also clean up any rebounds that Ullmark is able to, or that he allows. So for the most part, it's quality, not so much more quantity in terms of shots for the Panthers. And they haven't had a ton of those high danger chances that really make you nervous in the postseason.
Do you think that losing one of the first two games in Boston almost was beneficial to this team in some ways?
I mean, there's definitely an argument to be made for that. A lot of people heading into the postseason talked about how Boston had not coasted through the regular season. They still kept their foot on the gas till the very end, which was seen in them icing a full lineup in the season finale against Montreal. But they hadn't faced a ton of adversity throughout the course of the regular season. A couple, 2 or 3 games lost in a row here and there, literally only 2 times. And they had been able to avoid the injury bug pretty well over the course of the season as well. So yeah, to get that loss in game 2 was a bit of a reality check. Everybody knows how difficult it is to win in the playoffs, but it's a different thing between saying that and then, oh no, you're tied in this series. You dropped a game on home ice. It's time to really focus in here and to win those 2 games on the road without Bergeron and Krejci is a real testament to this team's resilience. And to do it on the road is you can't overstate how important it is to get those 2 wins and now have a chance to finish things off on Wednesday in Boston.
And the power play seems to be clicking very nicely in this series as well.
Yeah, that had been an issue throughout the course of the regular season, especially over the last couple months. That has really been rejuvenated. Tyler Bertuzzi has played a big role in that. He has been a fantastic presence for the Bruins in the postseason, his first taste of NHL playoff action. And he has been all over the place, mixing it up. We saw that power play goal in game 1 where he had that blind backhand pass to David Pastrnak. And he scored another goal in game 4 on a beautiful tip as well. So that coupled with their near perfect penalty kill, they allowed a power play goal in game 4, but it was the first one of the series that Florida has scored. Special teams playing a big role, and that power play should only have better opportunities when Patrice Bergeron's back in the lineup as well, and he's back to his regular bumper position that he plays on the power play.
Yeah, that'll be a great addition when it does indeed happen. What are the keys to closing out this series now?
I mean, they can't take Florida lightly, obviously. We've seen Florida win in Boston in this series, and they can't allow Florida to get under their skin. Full credit to Brad Marchand so far in the series for not taking those retaliatory penalties. They've really tried to get under his skin, but he stayed pretty calm and cool, acting as the de facto captain with Bergeron out. And just playing their game. The home crowd will be certainly amped up in this one. Florida's goaltending has been shaky in this series. We saw Sergei Bobrovsky come in for Alex Lyon to start game 4. Those 2 guys have shown that they can give up the odd soft goal here and there. So keep it simple, get the puck on net, and I think the Bruins should have a good shot at closing things out on home ice here.
All right, Ian, why don't you tell our viewers and our listeners where they could find the podcast and where they could find you on social media?
Podcast, Locked On Boston Bruins, available everywhere you get podcasts and on YouTube. You can find it on Twitter and Instagram at Locked NHL Bruins, and people can find me at Ian C. McLaren.
All right, Ian, always a pleasure. Thanks so much for coming by.
Thanks a lot, Gil.
Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Buying tickets to your favorite events shouldn't be stressful. Gametime is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all sports, music, comedy, and theater near you, with killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guarantee. You could stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for the fun you have. Forget planning months in advance. Gametime has deals on tickets right up to the day of the event. Get exclusive flash deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. The Game Time guarantee means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you with 110% of the difference. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.